all that little riff. It's like,
You're listening to Foxx on the Wire podcast. G'day, folks, and welcome to a very special episode of Foxx on the Wire. Today we have a very special Glenn, very special guest, an old friend of mine who I haven't seen for a little while, and he's going to help me out with today's episode with his expertise. Glenn, welcome to Foxx on the Wire.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's quite a remarkable time of the year when you think about it. You know, I ain't 30 years old.
That's it.
It's one of those things that really makes you feel old too, knowing that it is 30 years old. It's, being one of those albums it feels like it only came out just a couple of years ago. And just the rawness of that album and everything, it's just such an unforgettable album that, one of those few rare albums in the world that you can listen to right from the start to the very end of the album.
Yeah, Glenn's obviously talking about Vulgar Display of Power by Pantera, which has just turned 30 years old, released on February 25th, 1992. An unrelenting slab of precision riffs and cathartic energy as explained by Loudwire. So, Glenn, for those out there in podcast land who don't know you, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been into music all my life, pretty much. To be honest, I'm going to be one of those people to say I was originally into pop music, mate. Love my pop music, Michael Jackson, all that sort of thing.
Me too.
And one day I remember in the early days of hearing, what was it? It was Alice Cooper, Poison.
Oh, yeah,
and that hit the charts.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, look at this. I remember I was would have been about 10 or 11, I reckon I would have been. And I remember seeing the film clip for Poison. And 10, 11-year-old boy watching that film clip is like, I'm liking this. This is really, really good. And I started getting into it a bit more. And then I, Ugly Kid Joe come out, and that was rocking and real ballsy, if I could say it. And, I was one of those kids at school. I was like didn't have many, real introvert sort of kid at school. And one day I come to school with, remember the old Hot Metal magazines?
Yeah, Hot Metal. No, I don't remember Hot Metal.
So Hot Metal was an Australian heavy metal magazine. And, they had all your posters and all, pretty much like Metal Hammer and all that, but the Australian version. And, that's where we get all our posters from, being in the metal days. There was still a few of the old ones around, like you could get Hit Parader and, Circus Magazine and all that sort of thing. But Hot Metal was the Australian one. So if you wanted your metal gossip or wanted to know what was coming out, that was your go-to pretty much, because you think about it, back in the early 90s, we didn't have the internet then. We didn't have Google.
Yeah.
We didn't have any of that stuff. So if you wanted to know if someone was bringing out a new album, that was your go-to every month. Anyway, Hot Metal was just amazing. That's where we, as I said, we'd find out a lot of our stuff. And, I remember, as a kid, music was everything, especially in the 90s. Music was a lot of the 90s kids' lives. And, got me, after hearing Pantera for the first time and Metallica, I was one of these kids that were constantly tapping all the time and stuff like that. I mean, Mum used to go nuts. She used to crack the shit.
People don't like that shit.
No, they don't.
I still do it.
And they don't. It's like you're just making noise to them. But in your head, you're being creative. You're creating this music or just replicating something you've heard. But to them, it's just hearing. And you just get to shut up all the time and go to your room and do that shit. And it's like, crap. So then, after a while, I got my first drum kit and stuff and learned to play drums. I had a couple of years of drum lessons and got into a couple of little smaller bands and that sort of thing. Alpha State was one of those bands back in the day. So I was the original drummer for Alpha State, and they ended up making a pretty big name for themselves in around Melbourne and that, where we'd be playing to a couple hundred people every show and that sort of thing, which is a pretty big thing to do back in the day.
So how old were you at that stage?
I would have been around. Oh, mate, you're making me think here. Probably around about 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
So that was one of the bands I played. I also did a cover band for a little while. I think a lot of people will start playing covers and that when they first play. But Alpha State was my first original band that I got into. And from then it's been a few other cover bands, playing all your big hits and that, just trying to earn a bit of an income, a bit of extra money in the back pocket sort of thing, which is always good to have, make that money, and all that money you make goes into new gear all the time. It's a never ending thing. It's like, it's probably one of my regrets, it's like, as much as I love being a drummer, it's like, I wish I'd learned to play guitar.
Oh, really?
It's so much cheaper.
Okay, Dave Grohl.
Yeah. But it really is, you've got your upkeep of your skins all the time. You go and buy a set of strings for your guitar, you're looking at $15, $20, 25, 30 at the max, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they've gone up fairly recently.
Oh, have they?
So, yeah, but that's all right. They're still cheaper than drum skins.
Yeah, and then you've got your sticks you've got to go and buy constantly. You get 2 or 3 rehearsals out of a pair of sticks and they snap all of a sudden. It's like, oh man, I'm gonna go buy another one, and you get a crack in a cymbal, and then your cymbals are like $300, $400, $500 a cymbal. So it definitely is cheaper to play guitar than once you're set up for guitar. The only thing you guys have to deal with is your addiction to stop buying guitars,
which never ends.
Well, that's right. So
that's my new one behind me, the Schecter.
Yeah, it's real nice.
I saw it
really
and fell in love.
Lovely colour in that one.
Another thing with drummers, I guess, if you got sort of shitty bandmates, you're left lugging all your stuff to and from the car and from the venue or rehearsal.
Don't I know that?
I was never that guy. I always helped.
Nah, that's good. You're one of those good guys, mate. A rare breed, I call them. A rare breed, It's always the way. It used to annoy the crap out of me all the time because I used to be a drummer in Catwitch as well.
Oh, yeah. I remember that now, yeah.
Back in the day. And Kieran, he was an exceptional guy, really exceptional guy, but he used to make me laugh all the time because, he'd be in there 2 hours early setting up the drums and everything. Here comes Kieran walking in with his microphone in hand, hops on stage, puts it in, clips it in.
He's done.
Little sound check and he was done.
Yeah. So much easier. He could fit that in his back pocket.
Yeah, quite literally in the back pocket there. Wow. And it was all done. But, music has been an exceptional part of my life. It really still is. It's one of those things. Once I don't know how do you put it. It's like it's almost music. For my teenage years, anyway, music controlled my life. It really took me to places. Really got my imagination flowing. Really pulls out the creative side in you and really shows you a different lifestyle to what other people lived, especially back in the 90s where, we'd just gone through that phase, that early 90s, where we'd gone through that phase where heavy metal was trying to be outlawed in some countries and that sort of thing because of being bad influences and stuff like that. We had all those issues with Body Count and Ice-T back in the day, and then Dee Snider stuck up for heavy metal. Yeah. When they tried to ban it, and this is where all these censorship laws started back with heavy metal. Why you see those, these are parental advisory. Yeah. Because of those days. Yeah. And but as it come out, and we still claim that to this day now that it's an art form. It's a way for us to express ourselves, regardless whether you're just screaming into a microphone or talking your deepest, darkest thoughts. Let's look at Tom Araya from Slayer, right? That band, some of their lyrics are bloody incredible, right? But then you look at Tom Araya, he was a huge Catholic gentleman. Huge Catholic gentleman. They might have sang songs about Satan and, killing people or whatnot. but it's just an art form.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. It really allowed that creative expression to come in. It allowed fellow metalheads to be able to unite, and we still do it to this day. If you see a bloke walking down the street with a heavy metal shirt on, first thing you do is you give him a nod, or you give him the devil horns.
Yeah.
It's like, it's that respect.
It's a community. It's like, I never considered myself a metalhead because I'm into all sorts of music, not just exclusively metal, but with a band like Pantera and a few others, I love those bands like with everything, and I've loved them for, a few decades now, and they're always very close by, you know what I mean? And
those albums are just so close to my heart. It's like, I might not listen to them for a few months or whatever, but every time I do, put this album on, it's just like, it kicks in. It's one of those things. I'm 43 years old now, and as soon as I put that back on it, it's like a time machine almost, and it just takes you straight back to those days, and you have those nostalgic moments.
Yep.
And it's just the power the Pantera had, the influence they had on the metal community was insane. It was a whole new genre of metal that had just come out, and I think Pantera were one of those few bands that just touched everyone in some way or another, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Everyone had some form of connection to Pantera. I
remember when I was in primary school, I wasn't into them at that stage, but I'd drive to school every morning, and there'd be like a local guy, a bit of a misfit. He'd have a Pantera t-shirt on almost every day, like long black hair, and he's had these, because Pantera had really good artwork and good t-shirts.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And he'd have a different one every time, and I always took notice of those t-shirts because he was like the weirdo of the town, I guess. But now I totally get it. Like, he was just ahead of his time, I guess. And Pantera just took metal to a whole new level.
Yeah, yep.
To quote A New Level, the song.
Exactly right. You even think about Pantera and where they come from as well, with their early albums such as Metal Magic and Projects in the Jungle and I Am the Night. And it's like, you listen to those albums and you go, there's no way known this is Pantera. Especially when you're hearing, Terry's vocals on those early albums, and then obviously with Metal, I think it was Metal Magic that Phil come into it, I think.
Was he on that one? Or was Cowboys his first?
No. He played on one of those earlier power metal, was sung on one of those earlier power metal ones. But there's one thing that stuck with me when you're listening to those things. Dime's tone in his guitar.
Yeah.
It never changed throughout his entire history of playing. He always had that same tone, and it's what gave Pantera that edge, that sound.
Yeah, he's got to be, it's hard to say this in the right way, but he's one of the best, like, hands down. He just, I'm a big fan of a lot of guitarists. I play guitar myself, but Dime was in his own league. Just the way he just ate the guitar,
Well, you're right, man. You sit there and you think about those guitar greats such as Steve Vai and Yngwie Malmsteen and stuff like that. Great guitarists, and you listen to them and they'll do a massive sound or play a massive solo and that.
Yeah.
But the thing that always got me with those guys is it just sounded like a normal rock guitar.
Yeah.
Where, to me, Dime had that edgy sound to it. You know what I mean? He, a lot of guitarists would scoop those mids out, where Dime preferred to push those mids out, really push those mids out. And, he was well known on recording these albums where he would have his guitar in the left channel, guitar in the right channel separately.
Yeah.
But then he would do the one thing that no other guitarist would do, and they'd have a third track going stereo, which just gave him that really full sound. And to me, that's the Pantera sound.
It's a massive wall of guitar, but I see Phil Anselmo trying to explain Dime's playing and just how he was a step above everybody else, like I think he just had heart. Like you could hear his heart in his playing, and he doesn't sound like anyone else. No one else sounds like him. Whereas a lot of the really great metal guitarists, like maybe Steve Vai and Satriani and, you know, countless others, like a lot of those solos and stuff started to mimic each other. Even Eddie Van Halen, like he's up there too, and a lot of people started to mimic him. But Dime just had something in his playing, and I think it was just purely his love.
Yeah, you know, I was one of those fortunate people. I got to see Pantera back in 1994,
right?
And just to see him play live, and you know. Oh, the best part was, man, I've got to tell this story, right?
Tell it.
So, 1994, I remember it was, I had tickets. It was Tuesday, the 11th of August, 1994.
Wow.
That's how much of an impact this, because that was my very first concert that I bought tickets for.
Mm.
And I had some mates who came down from Orbost to go to the concert, and we were all going to go together, and we thought, well, they had a show on the Monday night too. So we thought, well, let's go down on the Monday night and we'll suss it all out and see where we have to go and everything. And I remember we got to the front. It was at Festival Hall.
Mm.
And we got to the front there, and we could hear them play, and we could hear it, and it sounded amazing even through, you know, from the outside. And we're walking around Festival Hall, and there was a couple of doors at the back there, and we just started, you know, just knocking on the door, banging on the doors to see if they were open.
Yeah.
Next minute, this dude's opened the door, and he's gone, "Run, dudes, the security's coming." So we've just nailed it straight into this door, and I remember just looking down into the pit and just seeing this pit go wild. Now, we're only 2 songs left, but I remember we ran down the stairs, and this is before Festival Hall put up that barrier. They've got a barrier. I don't know, is it even still around Festival Hall now?
I haven't been there for.
Yeah,
I think
been there for years.
Didn't they sell it, or it's doing something else now?
But anyway, they had a barrier. They didn't have a barrier there. It was just like a concrete ledge, and we just scaled over there, because once you got into the pit, security's not coming in there to find you.
Yeah.
And I remember going in there, and it was, you know, I can't remember that song that I come in, because all I was worried about was trying to get in there without getting caught.
Yeah.
But I remember it was we got in there, and it was the end of the night anyway, so the last song, and it was Cowboys from Hell.
Yeah.
They closed it, and I just remember like all the going whole dark, and you know, and all the strobes are just going off. And you know, this is the first time I've seen anything of a sort, and I was just like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
And then the sound just kicked in, and we're just moshing, and you know, people are falling down, you're picking them up and throwing them back over the top, and everyone's crowd surfing.
Yeah.
And it was such an amazing experience. So, and that just really set the tone for the next night. We got there at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're only 16 years old at the time.
Yeah.
We got a backpack full of booze and stuff. We're sitting out the front of Festival Hall drinking all day, no food at all.
Yeah.
By the time I just remember going home that night, and just I can't even describe it, mate. That was like that was go for me. That was go. From then on, you know, every single night I'd go to sleep listening to Pantera or Metallica or playing some form of metal. You know, back then for me, you know, my very first album that I bought, heavy metal album on CD I bought, was Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction, Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power, and Body Count's album.
Yeah, right.
I bought the 3 of those all at the same time. And I think the week after that, I went and bought Metallica, the Black Album, and Metallica, Ride the Lightning. And, you know, that was my introduction to metal pretty much.
Not a bad one.
Yeah, back then. And like I was listening to it for a while and stuff. I had those albums for a while, but it was just incredible, man. It's like, I guess, you know, everybody has that moment in time where you wish you could go back to. And for me, it was that time. It's almost like it was that time where I found myself. I found almost like a calling, something that I could relate to with someone finally without being that introvert that I was always known for being, you know, that weird kid that just stood around and not talking or not saying anything because you're worried about what other people are going to think. And all of a sudden, metal just creates that whole world for you.
So you found your people. So really, metal isn't a dangerous thing. It's actually a savior. Hard rock, metal, whatever you want to, you know.
I don't even know how to say that, man. That's like you just hit the nail on the head. It is a savior, man.
It is.
It really was a savior. You know,
Yep.
You listen to some of the lyrics in that of those songs, and people interpret lyrics how they want. Like people always want to know, you know, what was Phil's, you know, whole mentality about writing some of the lyrics for these songs. But at the same time, you might hear something like "Hollow" is a really good song for that. It's, you know, it's a tearjerker of a song, you know what I mean? And it's like we can all relate to that in some way or another. You know, someone we've lost, or, you know, it's not even have to be about someone lost. It could be about, you know, a friend that you no longer talk to anymore because you just lost traction. And, you know, there's interpretation is a big thing. It's a whole nother side of creativity that doesn't get discussed much about, if that makes sense.
And that's what makes it yours as the listener. Like you interpret it, I guess, how you want to. And just because Phil wrote it, I think he wrote Hollow about, didn't a few of his friends commit suicide and stuff like that? So, you know, obviously not all of us can relate to that, but we feel his pain and we may interpret some of the lyrics in our own way, and that's fine. It makes the whole thing go around. And that's, you know, when I feel angry, generally I'll chuck on Pantera instead of going out and, you know, causing a ruckus somewhere. I'll just crawl into my own little world and chuck on Pantera. It makes me feel better. And
it gets the blood pumping, doesn't it? Like it really gets that blood flowing inside you, and that sort of like, you know what it is? It allows you to channel that rage inside you into this one song, and, you know, you just go off in your head. Or, you know, even if you're sitting, I remember that's how I met one of my exes one time. Is I was in my room with my window open. My window faced the front of the house, and here I was headbanging to Pantera, and she's walked past and seen me and gave me the devil horns. I'm like, oh, who's this chick? And little did I know, because it was the first day I moved in, she was my next door neighbour.
Oh, nice. Wow, there you go. Well, you know, when I've had rough moments, I chuck on music. And I remember one time with an ex, you know, there was a bit of drama. I ran home and I chucked on Use Your Illusion 1, The Garden in particular, because Slash's solo in that song just does something for me, and I just fucking cranked it. And another night was Nirvana. I'd put two speakers and I put my head in the middle of it and just, you know.
I think everyone's done that at some point. You just crank it up as loud. Yeah, please don't do it in this day and age. I'm deaf in my left ear now, you know, from playing drums all those years and not wearing hearing protection. So if you play music, guys, just wear that hearing protection. Trust me.
Yep.
But, you know, it's just one of those stupid things we've done as kids. You lay down, speakers on, loud as you can, right next to each ear, and you just absorb that whole sound, and you're just loving it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't recommend it, but it worked for whatever I was trying to do at that stage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess, you know, Vulgar being... I think it was their sixth album, I believe. It was their
sixth album.
And, you know, it was the next one following Cowboys. And Dime and Vinny's dad, Jerry. Dime and Vinny are brothers, if anyone who doesn't know that out there. He said everyone in the band was gunning to make a heavier and more brutal album after Cowboys, which was sort of more in the vein of maybe Judas Priest and maybe some of those earlier metal bands, but they had a different idea of how to reach the next plateau of heaviness, and they were fully driven as anyone could be. And they were pumped. And, you know, you look at the home videos.
Oh, yes.
They got the best home videos, Pantera. And they were just driven. Like
they really were. It was all, you know, they really were rock stars, weren't they? I mean, you watch those videos and it really was just sex, drugs and rock and roll and just fun and games, you know, everything you hear about, you know, rock stars and that, smashing up rooms and that, they did it all. And, you know, you'd sit there watching those videos over and over again going, how awesome would it be to just have one drinking session with them?
Oh, wow, yeah.
But
I mean, you could argue they took that whole thing to a whole new level too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, everyone talks about it. You know, whenever they met Dimebag for the first time, the first thing he would do is throw a drink in their face.
Yep.
And go, here you go. And
get on
it. He'd give him his signature bloody black tooth grin.
And what did you bring with you today?
I did, mate. I've in support of good old mate Dimebag. I bought us a bottle of Crown Royal, mate. And now here's the worst part. I have to apologise for this. I couldn't get Seagram 7, but I did get the Seagrams low though, so it's still Seagrams.
Yeah.
But what do you say we make one?
Let's do it.
Let's do it, mate. You got a glass handy there?
I do.
So Dime invented this drink, which he called the Black Tooth Grin, and he named after one of Megadeth's songs, Sweating Bullets, because in that song he goes, and smile, it's Black Tooth Grin.
Yep.
And what it is, it's pretty much 2 shots
Thank you.
of Crown Royal.
Yeah.
That's your one. I'll just pour mine here.
And I found out that Vulgar Display of Power, that was actually from The Exorcist. That was a line in The Exorcist movie.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And I actually pulled up the YouTube clip of that. And like with all funny little things like that, you go down to the comments and people are like, are you guys here for Pantera too? You know, best album name ever. So it's equal parts of the drinks pretty much. So 2 shots of the Royal Crown and 2 parts of Seagrams. Beautiful.
Now,
legend.
One of our Dime's specialty, a lot of people would drink this straight up like this.
Yeah.
But Dime apparently didn't like the taste of it. So what he used to do, just to take the edge off, he'd add a little splash of Coke to it, mate. So I reckon we do that anyway, because I haven't had a drink for a while, mate. And I reckon it's going to be a little bit of a...
He's come prepared today.
I really have. But I mean, look, you cannot talk about Pantera and not have one of these.
Yeah. I'm down. I can't say I've had these before, so... No.
So, now you need to remember, I was reading about them this morning on my way here, actually, and even though it's Dime's invention, it was... the drink itself wasn't meant to be really a shot. It was meant to be sipped.
Yeah.
But, of course, they just used to do the 2 parts and 2 parts, and pretty much, what was it? Can you remember his famous saying, mate? What was it?
Oh, get your pull.
Get your pull, or what else? Watch it go.
Oh, yeah.
And
oh, shit. Oh, that's why he's got his beard, to catch all that extra shit.
Saves it. Woo.
All right. There we go.
What? It's not a bad. It's going to warm you up a bit, but it's not.
I've got to control the audio and the video here. Is this a good idea for me?
You'll be right, mate. You'll be right.
All right, here it goes.
Watch him go, guys.
Get your pull.
And then the best part, a Canadian whiskey it's not harsh at all. Like, how good does it taste?
Good. Oh, man.
Woo. Could you imagine how they just meeting Dimebag and him just throwing one of them in your face straight away for the first time. And he was real notorious for...
Yeah.
You couldn't tell him no. You had to have it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And especially with the enthusiasm that he would do. Like, he was a very, what's the word?
Extroverted.
Yeah. And, not influential. Charismatic. Very charismatic guy.
Hugely charismatic, yeah.
So, you'd find it pretty hard. I can just imagine going on tour with these guys, and especially Dime. Oh, my God.
Yep. And I guess, again, mate, I really don't want you to hate me, mate, but you know, back to that 1994 tour.
Yeah.
One of the bonuses about that is they actually did a in-store signing at Virgin Megastore in Burke Street.
Oh
wow. And I remember I was there that day, and they tried making everyone buy stuff to get it signed and that, but, you know, guys were showing up with their guitars and getting guitars signed and everything.
Yeah.
And management were trying to tell them, but in the end, they just didn't win it all. And, you know, it was just insane. Dimebag was, you know, I remember Dimebag was off his tree. He was like, they were all recovering guys.
Yeah.
You know, and because they did that on the Monday, and it was just amazing to be able to meet your idol, I suppose. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's like, and as I said, it all just fell together for me after that, and it just really shaped who I was as a person back then in the 90s. You know. So
being a drummer, obviously, I reckon Vinny's one of the best drummers, one of the best metal drummers, and he was great to watch. He had a fucking great sound, like, and his drum sound on every album, I felt like got better and bigger. So was he a big influence on you, as a drummer? Like you wouldn't believe, you know, back in the 90s, you know, I didn't come from a wealthy family or anything, so I didn't have a drum kit at all, mate, you know what I mean? So me learning to play drums pretty much, you know, doing lessons at school on an actual drum kit, but then going home and practicing on chairs and stuff, and you know, it's what a lot of drummers do. Yeah, exactly, man, you know. Yeah. And so I'd go home and put Vulgar on, and you'd sit there learning these songs and playing along to them on the chair and stuff like that. Yeah. And no doubt about it, man, Vinny was a massive influence. Him and Lars Ulrich from Metallica, if it wasn't for them two, man, I honestly don't think I would have been playing drums, to be honest. But you watch Vinny, like, just the way his kit is set up even, and the way he sits behind it, he's just controlling that fucking region, and just and he had those really big toms too. Like, most people don't have those, like, you know, back then they didn't have the square rounded toms, so he had the abnormal huge tom sort of thing, which helped get him those really big sounds, and you know, he was just such a powerful player, and I guess that's why, I mean, you know, one of my things that I grew up doing, I was always a hard hitter playing drums. I can't play drums soft, and I left the band because, you know, they kept having a go at me about playing so hard all the time, and I said, it's my style. Yeah, you can't just go, I'm just going to play lightly, because you start playing lightly and you lose feel. You lose feel, you know. You sit there and try telling Vinnie Paul not to play loudly. You know. Well, I always liked his double kick stuff, like, especially, I think he took it up another notch on Far Beyond Driven. Songs like Becoming. Thank you. And then, know, that double kick pattern. What the hell? I can't even do that with my hands, let alone my feet. Yep, it's just insane. And then again, he takes it up another notch on Great Southern Trendkill with 13 Steps to Nowhere. Oh yeah. Oh, how heavy is that song? That's he gets that little triplet pattern going. Yeah. Fuck. Not to get too far away from Vulgar, but I think Trendkill's probably my favourite Pantera album. What about yours? I'll say one thing, mate. Yeah. One thing about the Great Southern Trendkill. By far, that was the loudest album I have ever heard. Yeah. Now, when I say that, yes, we can control the volume on our stereos, but if you were to go and play every album you own and have them all turned up to 5 or so, they're all at a certain level. They're all recorded at a certain level. But then you put on Great Southern Trendkill and you put that on 5, like the rest of them, and the volume level was just so much higher. And then you've got Seth scream at the start of Suicide Note Part 2. Oh, man. And it just really set the tone for that entire album. Yeah. No, that's... I think, you know, it's hard to pick a favourite, and they all have their place, obviously, but Trendkill for me was probably the heaviest and the darkest the loudest.
Yeah, definitely. I will definitely say it was the darkest album they've done.
Yeah, and I think they just all had their individual elements really honed in. Like, they've been good on every album, but Vinny's drums sounded fucking solid as. Dime's guitars were bigger than ever. Phil's vocals, and Rex, of course, with his bass. You know, I think they hit a peak there.
They
Even if
really
it wasn't
did.
commercially a peak,
Yep.
you know. But it was a different time. But so Cowboys was released in 1990.
Yep.
And Vulgar in 92. Now, that year in between, 91, that was a big year for music.
Huge.
You had albums, which I've covered on this show. You know, I
Guns
can't help
N'
myself.
Roses and-
Slave to the Grind, Nevermind, Bad Motorfinger by Soundgarden, Chili Peppers, Aussie, No More Tears.
10.
Was it 92? 91, yeah.
I think it was 91.
91, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, for
I'm
10.
not much of a Pearl Jam fan these days.
Oh.
Yeah. But, and even Tupac released his debut album, Tupacalypse. So yeah, Pantera, and then, you know, that was a massive year for music. And then start of 92 Feb, Pantera just came in with a crushing Vulgar Display of Power.
They really did, man. And it's like, I can't stress this enough, man. It's like all the music that was coming out then, it's like, if you even listen to black metal and that, like Deicide, I was right in Deicide then as well. And, you know, they're considered death metal in this day and age, but, you know, back then they were considered black metal because, you know, lyric content and all that was brutal. You know, that was a really brutal album and that, but nothing just had that volume like this album did, man. Nothing had that volume. And it really smashed it. I mean, you think about it, the first thing you put this album on and you're listening, whether you had a cassette at the time, because cassettes were still around then,
Yeah.
and you'd put the cassette and you get that,
Oh, yeah.
and you just get smashed with that. And it's like, what a way to open up an album.
I was thinking that too. It's like, it's the perfect opener for that album. And, you know, A Mouth for War, you know, had a great video as well.
It really did. And that had Phil smashing the cinder blocks with the sledgehammer. And, you know, it was a really raw footage too, because you can see all the track work at the end from the grips and that, where they're doing the footage around Vinnie Paul's drum kit and stuff like that. It was an really amazing song. And you know, that's one of the things that, as you know, even to this day, bands still need to do. They need to pick that really important song that's going to set the tone for the whole album.
And I think that was the first single off the album. And I believe Phil came out probably just the other day, I think it was, and said that he basically wrote that main riff. Like, he showed Dime, and then Dime obviously tore it up and made it his own.
Probably pulled it apart. And,
But, you know, it's just got some great... and Dime's solo in that song, I mean... He's just all over this album, and
he really is just a genius, isn't he?
Yeah.
Really, like as we were saying before, I don't want to keep repeating it, man, but it's just so true. He was such a unique guitarist. He just, to me, he just stands above everyone. You know, you look at, you know, what is it, Rolling Stones, best guitarist of all time and stuff, and he still made it right up there at the top, you know what I mean, out of every guitarist in the world. And I think a lot of that comes down to his uniqueness. Yeah,
and he sort of he stuck with his own sort of southern country metal style all along. He just stuck in his own little thing, and he did what he wanted. And I think this song, Mouth for War, ranked as number 7 on Metal Hammer's list of top 50 Pantera songs, which would be a pretty hard list to put together, admittedly.
That would be incredibly hard, man. How do you even start to judge it? How do you start to put his songs into a, you know?
Well, Mouth for War is definitely top 10, you know, I reckon. And it comes down to Dime's riffs and his solo in the song, which is really cool. And even the way they finish the song, like, it's a really cool outro. And Phil said this song was about channeling your hate into something productive. Kind of like what we talked about before.
Heavy metal. Yeah. Channel it into something really productive instead of, you know, it's almost like if you can channel that hate into a thought or a process rather than letting it expel from your body, it's so much better for you. And even this day now, younger days, we all done crazy things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you'd get angry and you'd punch a hole in the wall or anything, but as a metalhead, it's like you could take that rage out in your head and just start headbanging in your room or screaming at the top of your lungs, and you just get that rage and that aggression all out of you. And it's like, after you do that, it's like you feel good, you feel pumped better. And you feel better.
Because you got to do something with that energy, whether you like it or not.
Or you're just bottling it up, which, as we know, is never good for anyone to do.
Yeah. I'll just turn that aircon up, mate.
Yeah, you're right, mate.
Starting to cook, aren't we?
Yeah.